welcome to the Enterprise World magazine. Today's guest is an internationally recognized authority in the science of ethical influence and persuasive communication. As the Chief Influencer Officer at Influence 𝗣𝗵𝗿 LLC and a distinguished faculty member at the Cialdini Institute, he has spent his career transforming how leaders communicate, connect, and drive meaningful action. His work bridges psychology, behavior science, and real-world business strategy, helping organizations elevate trust, improve decision-making, and lead with integrity. Please join me in welcoming one of the most influential leaders in behavior influence and business communication to look after in 2026, Mr. 𝗵𝗵𝗿. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor to have you with us on this show today.
Well, thank you for inviting me on. I look forward to the conversation.
Oh, most definitely. So let's get started with the first segment. So we'll talk a little bit upon your journey now, Brian. So what first inspired you to specialize in behavior influence and ethical persuasion? And also, how did those early experiences shape the mission of Influence 𝗣𝗵𝗿 LLC?
Well, I was working for a large insurance company and I was involved in sales training, and a coworker gave me a video of Dr. Robert Cialdini presenting at Stanford on the power of persuasion. And when I watched the video, the light bulb came on. My first thought was, holy cow, the things that he's talking about here, the psychology, it's the underpinning of all selling. And so that had direct application to what I was doing. I love the fact that it was all based on research. This wasn't motivational hype or inspiring stories. There was hard data behind what he was talking about to clearly show you what a difference this could make. And then finally was his stance on ethics. He talked about non-manipulative ways to go about doing this, influencing people. So I started using the video around the company and showing it to people and talking about the concepts. Well, interestingly, I saw a marketing flyer from Stanford and it was advertising Dr. Cialdini in his video, and it used the word manipulation. And he was very clear about non-manipulative ways to influence people. So I will just say, I guess the moral part of me felt like it needed to be addressed. And I emailed Stanford and basically said, I don't know anybody who wants to be manipulated, and I don't know anybody who is looking to become a manipulator. That word cannot be helping your sales, but it's probably really hurting. I never heard from Stanford, but sometime later my phone rang at work, and it was a representative of Dr. Cialdini's. And she said she was calling to thank me on his behalf because an email that I had sent to Stanford led to them changing the marketing of all of his materials. And that's how I got connected to Dr. Cialdini. This was back in the year 2003, and eventually we had him come to my town, Columbus, Ohio. He spoke to the insurance agents. I went through his training, and ultimately the rest is history. It's been almost 25 years, my association with him now.
That's wonderful. So, you've built a career rooted in the science of human behavior. So at what point did you realize that ethical influence could become a transformative tool for leaders, business, and everyday communication?
Well, it started with salespeople because, again, I was involved with sales training. And anybody who's in sales out there watching or listening to this, you know this is true, that prospects do not become clients until they say yes to your proposal, right? It just never happens. They're not going to become a client until they say yes. The more I started working with the material and thinking about it, then I'm thinking about managers. So again, people out there might be watching this. You could be a manager and you have these great ideas to help your company move ahead, but they go nowhere until somebody above you says yes to them, right? So it's critical for you to understand how to get people to say yes. But even when you are the leader, maybe you are the head of the department, maybe you own the company, run the organization, it won't matter how good your mission, your vision, and values are if you can't get people to say yes and execute. So it's a critical skill for people in virtually every role in business to understand how to move people from where they are to where you need them to go if you want to enjoy success.
That's excellent. So you teach principles backed by decades of research, right? So what 𝗁𝗏𝗿 or psychology, philosophy drives your approach to influence, and also how does it guide your work with clients, leaders, and also the organizations?
So what would be guiding for me is that influence is all about people. thus my company, Influence 𝗣𝗍𝗄. And the word people is actually an acronym. And it stands for Powerful, Everyday Opportunities to Persuade that are lasting and ethical. And what I teach is powerful because it's backed by research. More than 9 decades of research from the social sciences and now more recently behavioral economics. It's an everyday skill, right? Every single day we are trying to influence people. It could be as simple as, would you pass me the butter? Or something like that, but you're trying to influence that person into a behavior. So it's an everyday skill. Now, what I have learned in my years teaching this is that there are opportunities out there right now just waiting for people to tap into, but they might not see them because they don't yet understand the language of influence. But once they begin to understand that, they start seeing all kinds of opportunities that have always been there. The next P is for persuade. What does it mean to persuade? Well, persuading can be changing how people think, feel, and behave. And I really like to focus on the behavior component because it's not enough for somebody to say to a salesperson, your proposal looks good. You want them to actually sign the contract. You want to change that behavior. So when I talk about persuasion, I use Aristotle's definition. Aristotle said that persuasion was the art of getting someone to do something that they wouldn't ordinarily do if you didn't ask. And it's a great definition when you think about it. Someone's not doing what you want or need, and how you communicate might make all the difference between hearing yes or no. Okay? So now we have the powerful everyday opportunities to persuade that are lasting. If we do this well, it can take on a lasting impact. And that happens quite often when our influence attempts touch somebody's core and changes their self-identity somewhat, because people tend to live into the identity that they see for themselves. And then the final letter in people is E for ethical. We have to do this in a way that makes the customer or whoever it is feel good about the interaction. And we also want to be able to look at ourselves in the mirror and feel good about how we're trying to influence people. Now, one change that's come about with a book that I wrote recently called Influenced from Above, when I look at the L and the E in people, I'm starting to talk about powerful everyday opportunities to persuade that are loving and ethical. Because if my goal is to love my neighbor as myself, if it is to really treat individuals that way, I will always do right by them. I don't have to worry about the rules of ethics when I am trying to love people. And if I do that well, I believe it can have an eternal impact on them.
That's very well explained. So, applying behavioral science in the real world can be complex. Like you just explained it right now. So what major challenges did you face in bringing these evidence-based principles to companies? And also, how did you overcome the initial resistance or all the misconceptions that people had?
The resistance, I think, is that people think they know it. Because in one form or fashion, we are trying to, as I said earlier, influence people every day. Now, I have an 8-month-old grandson, and he tries to influence me and his grandma and his mom every day. He has no words, but he cries, and we figure out, oh, we need to burp him or change him, right? So we come into the world knowing that we have to work with other people to get our needs met. But that doesn't mean that we do it well. And I think when people start learning the science, they begin to clearly see this. It would be no different than breathing. Every human being breathes as long as they're alive. But we also know that you can learn breathing techniques that can help you. I used to run, and breathing was a big part of running. If I could relax when I was running, if you're meditating, if you want to calm down, there are things we can learn about how to breathe, even though every one of us does it all the time. And so that's the challenge that I face, is people thinking that they already understand this. But once I have an opportunity to start sharing, for example, some research that might go against the grain of what they would have thought would motivate people's behavior, then their eyes start opening and they're like, oh, okay, I get it. There's more to this influencing thing than me just telling somebody what I want them to do.
That's fantastic. So you play multiple roles. You are also a consultant, a researcher, a teacher, a strategist, and a coach, right? So how do you balance these responsibilities while keeping your message clear, ethical, and impactful?
Because I focus on one thing: influence. and how we put that into practice. So, if I'm speaking from the stage or if I'm doing training, I focus in on that one thing, influence, and then how do we put it into practice for that particular organization. Typically, I am working with salespeople and understanding the sales process, starting with prospecting all the way through getting referrals. But how do we apply that psychology at each step in that process? So I've had clients who've come to me in the past and say, hey, because you work with salespeople, can you help us develop our sales process? To which I say, no, that's not my expertise. There are people out there who have great expertise in developing sales processes for various organizations. But once you have that process, and I begin to understand what that process is, I can help you make that more effective by taking the principles of influence and looking at where to apply them and how to apply them. So again, whether I'm speaking, training, writing, coaching, consulting, everything focuses around that one thing where I specialize in helping people understand the psychology, but then how do we put it into practice?
That's spot on. So the world of communication is changing with AI, remote work, digital persuasion, and also data-driven messaging. So how does Influence people stay ahead of all of these shifts or trends while maintaining the integrity of ethical influence?
Well, I've always been of the opinion that when there is certain change coming about, and there's nothing that you or I are going to do to change it. For example, when texting became a thing, and people would say, wow, kids these days, they can't even speak well or write well. All they do is text. And it might have deteriorated some of their interpersonal skills. But on the positive side, I realized I could text my daughter any time of day or night. And when she was a teenager, sometimes she would text me before volleyball practice or after school. I was having interactions with her that I never had with my parents. And so to me, that was the positive. And so I always say, swim with the wave instead of trying to swim against the wave. When it comes to the technology now, that technology would be AI. It is going to transform the world in much the same way that the internet transformed the world. And it doesn't matter what we think about it. We need to figure out how do we use that to our benefit. I am not a proponent of just having a tool like AI create information for people and then put it out into the world. What I do is I work with AI. So for example, everything that I write comes from Brian Ahearn, but then I will turn to AI as a real-time editor, having uploaded all of my books and other work so it understands how I think, how I write, what my voice is, and then I can work with it to improve whatever it is that I'm working on in much the same way that I may turn to you and say, would you look at this and give me some advice, right? But I can do that in real time, so it allows me to be much more productive. And that is beneficial for all of the people who are connected with me and all of the clients that work with me.
That's fantastic. So if you had to describe the Influence people experience in one sentence, what would it be?
I like to use Simon Sinek's term, why. What is your why? And I always tell people my why at Influence People is your professional success and personal happiness. Going back to something that I said earlier, I truly believe that much of your success at the office in business relies on your ability to get other people to say yes to you, your products, your services, and your ideas. The more you understand how to do that, and of course, you have to have good ideas and good products and good services, but the more that you understand the principles of influence and can bring them into your communication, you'll hear yes more and you'll have more success. But it doesn't stop at the office, because if you think about, for all the people watching or listening, if you are married or have a significant other, if you are raising children, I bet you'd agree with this, that your life at home is a lot more peaceful and happy when you can turn to somebody and communicate in a way that makes them say, sure, yeah, I'll do that, right? Without resistance. And so this is a 24/7, 365 skill that if we understand it and put it into practice, we can enjoy more success at the office and we can enjoy more happiness at home. And I think those are two really good things to help people achieve.
That's very beautifully put. So, looking ahead at your professional journey, what advice would you give to emerging leaders who want to communicate more effectively and lead with authentic and influence?
It would be to learn the science of influence, because people will not necessarily follow you because of your title. I mean, they may have to in some cases if they report directly to you, but you would probably prefer to have people follow you because they want to, because they see you as a person of integrity. They respect your expertise. They know that they can trust you. All of those intangibles that whether or not you have title, people will still want to follow you, right? So every organization has their formal leaders. They also have their informal leaders, people who don't have position or title, and yet everybody seems to go to them for advice. They follow their lead. And I think when you learn the science of influence and you begin to put it into practice the right ways, you can naturally evolve into that kind of person. So that if you happen to have title or position and you have that integrity, trust, likability, and all of those things, well, that makes you almost unstoppable. But you have to learn what the research says. Otherwise, people just go about doing things the same way because that's the way they've always been done, or that was how they were taught, and they may not be the most effective ways.
That's terrific. So yeah, Brian, this brings us to this end of segment 1. So we quickly move on to the segment 2, which is a rapid fire round. So we want very short and spontaneous answers only now. So one word that defines you as a leader.
Influential. I hope people would see that I'm influential. That's my business.
Yeah, but you're influencing the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a book, a quote, or a principle that has profoundly shaped your understanding of influence.
A quote comes from when I was in high school. My football coach used to tell us all kinds of things. And one thing I remembered was he would say, luck is where preparation meets opportunity. Now, I came to learn later in life that it was Seneca, the Roman philosopher, who had come up with that. But it is so true that you will not experience what some people might call luck if you are not ready for the opportunities that come to you. And so I've always been a firm believer that you put in the time, you put in the effort, you practice, you do all of those things, because you never know when somebody might turn to you and, or in my case, say, hey, we just lost our keynote speaker. Are you available next week to come and do something? And if I have availability, it's not a problem because I have prepared, so I'm ready for those opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's very, I think you're very well read because you have some really great quotes to share with us. So that's fantastic. So one misconception about influence or persuasion that you wish people would stop believing.
Influence is not manipulation. Just because somebody is trying to influence you, don't take it as they're trying to manipulate you. Recognize that you are trying to influence people all the time and you're not necessarily manipulating those people. So that's why we have two different words, influence and manipulation. And I think as long as people start separating that, they can feel good about learning how to ethically influence people.
Yes, that's rightly said. Your favorite productivity habit or communication ritual?
My favorite productivity habit is working out every morning. So I'm up very early, go for a long walk, come into the house, lift weights for maybe 45 minutes, and then spend time stretching. I feel like that not only wakes up my body, but it makes me mentally fit because I think I'm up way before other people. I've already accomplished all of this. Now I'm ready to tackle the day. And that's been part of my routine almost the entirety of my life since I was a teenager.
Yes, I think personal well-being is key to success, right? So the most rewarding part of being the Chief Influencer Officer at Influence People?
It would be knowing that I'm helping people achieve success and happiness. If somebody's enjoying success at the office and maybe that opens the door for them to send their child to college because they've earned more money, or they buy their dream home, or they're saving for retirement, all of those things that people can choose to do with that success. But also to know that people who take what I teach and put it into practice at home, I've had many people come back and say, wow, I'm getting along better with my teenager. They more willingly do their chores or their homework, or I get along with my spouse better. And so for me, there's an opportunity to have that eternal impact.
That's great. So if you weren't in the world of influence and behavior science, what field could you have explored?
I probably would have maybe gotten into church work. When I was much younger and life was changing as my relationship with God was changing, I was very kind of intent on that. I didn't end up going in that direction. I do feel like I had an opportunity to bring faith-based concepts into the work and have a positive impact on people. But I think it could have been something certainly related to church.
Yes, spirituality is amazing. So yeah, that brings us to the end of round 2. So we will quickly move on to the third round. So Brian, with all of the experience that you have, the decades of research and the knowledge that you share with everybody, if there is one piece of advice that you want to give to leaders, professionals, emerging entrepreneurs, communicators who want to leverage influence ethically and leave a lasting impact in their organizations and communities, what would it be?
I think with leadership, something that is so important and yet it can get overlooked is the power of relationships. Just because you're the leader doesn't, again, necessarily mean people are going to want to do what you ask or tell them to do. But if you begin to focus on building relationships, that can be a lever that makes you so much more successful. But here's the thing, it's not ever about me getting you to like me, right? And that's what most people try to do. They try to get people to like them because we do tend to follow the lead or comply with people that we like. But the real differentiator here is it's, again, not about me getting you to like me, it's about me coming to know and like you. Because most people, like if somebody could see and say, hey, Brian really seems to like me, and I can tell he really does care about me, my job, my family, my kids, that's what opens them up to whatever I might ask or propose. Because I believe this, most of us deep down believe friends do right by friends, right? I know that you wouldn't manipulate your friends. I wouldn't manipulate my friends. I want the best for my friends. And when people sense that, that's what opens them up. Now, the other thing that's good too is the more I get to know and like you, I will probably work harder, longer, be more creative, take a greater interest in you because I like you. And that creates this, I will say, like a virtuous cycle. You see that I like you, and in response, you like me. And of course, that makes me feel good, which causes me to like you even more. And we've got this very positive cycle. But it also begins to inform how I use these other principles of persuasion. And one simple example would be reciprocity, right? Reciprocity says, if I do something for you, you feel obligated to do something for me. Now, unfortunately, when people remove relationship from that, they use reciprocity just as a tool to get what they want. And I always tell people, I don't give to get. I give because it's the best way, it's the right way to do life. But I understand that people I have genuinely given to and helped will want to help me. And so I don't hold back from going to them and asking for help if I need it. And usually they're very willing to do so and they feel good about it. And that again reinforces our relationship. So the more I get to know and like you, the more I understand how to give to you in ways that are most meaningful, which you appreciate more and make you more inclined to help me should I need that. And if we had a world that was full of people who are trying to like one another and looking for ways to give that would benefit the other person, whether it's our organizations or our societies or our friendships, they'd all be much better off.
That's, I think, some golden piece of advice right there. And I think I second with you because I truly believe that relationships are never an obligation and it should never be. So yeah, I think that's really wise words down there. So this brings us to the final round, the fourth segment. So looking ahead, what are some of the major trends you see that are going to shape the future of business communication, decision making, and behavioral science worldwide?
Well, I'll go back to AI. I can't see anything right now that is bigger than AI in terms of how it's enhancing communication. as I said earlier, I use it to enhance my communication. I feel like I'm a good writer, but whenever I work with an editor, they make my writing better. I don't always have access to that person, but AI, the smarter it gets and the more information it has about me and how I think and how I write and communicate, the more beneficial it can become for me. What I think the danger is are people who will be lazy and just rely on it to create their videos, create their content, write their articles, books, and things like that. And it will be very disappointing. I mean, if you bought one of my books and loved it, and then you heard me speak and you said, that doesn't line up with what I read, or if you found out Brian didn't really write the book, it was AI generated, he just used good prompts, you'd be really disappointed, right? The human connection is still really, really important, and we will not feel connected to AI, but we will feel connected to other people. AI may be a catalyst to get us to follow somebody, to start to read their books or their content, but it still comes down to that human connection. And I would much rather have somebody be impressed with me over my books. I'd like them to read the book and think, wow, this is interesting, I want to follow this guy. Then I would like to be more impressive in real time with them.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So this brings me to the final question. How is Influence People positioning itself through education, consulting, and research to help leaders and organizations embrace all of the changes while maintaining ethical integrity and strategic effectiveness?
Well, again, going back to AI, utilizing AI to make my content better, tighter, more relevant. I'm a big fan of say as much as you can with as few words as possible, because we live in a time where people are overloaded with information and they don't want to spend tremendous amounts of time, unless they buy a book, to read things online. So it's always a challenge. How can I say this, communicate this with as few words as possible, but still get across the intent so that I reach more people because they're more willing to engage with the content? As you mentioned in my introduction, I work with the Cialdini Institute as a faculty member, and I know that the Cialdini Institute is looking at developing an AI bot that will bring all of Dr. Cialdini's research and thoughts and writing and everything into a centralized place where people can go almost as if asking Dr. Cialdini himself, how would I solve this challenge? What is your advice about this? So taking this information and utilizing it as a lever so that we can reach more people with this message so they can enjoy that success and that happiness.
That's very insightful. So yeah, Brian, this brings us to the end of the interview. But before we say our goodbye, I just want to give you a small vote of thanks. So thank you so much for sharing with us your journey today. I think your insights and all the powerful mission behind Influence People is commendable. It's been inspiring to learn how you are elevating the world of communication, leadership, and ethical influence, and how your work continues to guide professionals towards a more impactful and responsible decision making. So for all of our Enterprise Viewers magazine viewers, we'll be back with such more inspiring conversations featuring visionary leaders who are shaping industries, transforming mindsets, and driving meaningful change right here on the Enterprise World magazine. Thank you so much, Brian. I'm really grateful for your time and effort for the interview. I think we're doing this the second time, but I'm so sorry for the convenience that happened the first time. But I think it was a fantastic experience interviewing you, and I'd had a very lovely conversation with you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and have a great day ahead.